everyone, and welcome to the HRC podcast, Empowering You to Thrive, where we help you navigate the complexities of life, work, and growth. I'm Mahera, your host. I'm an entrepreneur and a person who believes in personal growth and constant learning. But the real star of the show is my co host and my childhood friend Harish. Now, let me tell you that he's a visionary, a thought leader in emotional intelligence, career development, and wealth management, and a driving force behind some of the most inspiring personal growth stories I've ever come across. He's built an incredible brand, empowering others to thrive and help them to unleash their full potential. Harish, is always a pleasure to have you and share your thoughts and wisdom with us.
Thank you, Mahera, for coming on the show. It's amazing to have you bring the energy and curiosity with all of us on the podcast, especially for the listeners.
Harish, today's episode is all about personal branding. I would like to know your views. What do you think personal branding is about, and how do you take it further if you start with a brand?
Yeah, so I think, the most important element, when you're really discussing about personal branding, especially for the listeners, is figuring out the difference between personal branding and corporate branding. Because honestly, what we all have been listening or hearing in our lifetime is really corporate branding, right? As in, we've seen the biggest logos in the world. We actually carry it on ourselves in so many times. Whether it's in our clothing, the mobile devices we're using, the laptops we're using. Brands are everywhere, and many a times, people are spending so much of time looking at the brands around us and somewhere not figuring out that the potential of self-branding is equally important by bringing it in your lives. So think about the brands, some of the top brands that we have around us, and if you could achieve a small potential of those brands in your personal life for yourself, where your family members, where your life partners, your kids, your colleagues, your bosses could remember you in a smallest percentage of the biggest brand, but now associate Mahera Khan's brand, the impact is phenomenal. It's worked for me in an amazing way, in a way that has helped me grow much faster in all aspects of my life. And I think that's really what we're going to discuss in today's show.
Right. That's an amazing way to start. So, Harish, the main question would be, how do you kickstart a branding? How do you go about it?
Yeah. So, you know what? Before we do that, we're going to have a ritual on the show. Okay. It's called Flash Fire. It's technically a rapid fire fun, part of the show.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you 5 questions and you need to answer them, pretty rapidly. Okay. We are going to give you a couple of seconds to really answer. No thinking. Okay.
Okay.
All right. First question. What is your favorite brand of all time?
Should be Apple, sleek and smart.
Great. If you could rebrand yourself with a superpower, what would it be?
Maybe teleportation, because being on time is everything.
Yes. What's one thing people misunderstand about branding?
That is just a logo. It's not doing anything but being a logo.
Very, very important. All right. If your personal brand had a tagline, what would it be?
Getting it done with a smile, because we need to do it happily.
Absolutely. And then what's the worst personal branding of all time?
Someone claiming to be a guru.
But not being a guru?
But not
Yeah.
being a guru.
I hope we don't turn out to be that
We're
on the
not
show.
hinting at anyone.
All right, let's come back to the question that you asked in respect to where do you start, right? So the first step in any kind of branding, whether you're branding for a corporate, whether you're branding for yourself, it really starts from writing your brand statement. So this is where I'm going to ask the listeners to pause this video, go grab yourself a pen and paper, or literally use your phones to do this activity.
Right.
Write down your brand statement. Who do you represent? What is something that better defines your
It's relatable
brand
to you.
statement. It's relatable to you, right? It has to come from the bottom of your heart. It should not be something that you heard somebody say about you, good or bad, or don't let some of those things really impact you. Mahera, what are the top brand statement that comes into your mind?
Adidas, impossible is nothing. Subway, which is across my house, eat fresh.
Yeah, right. Or
Yeah.
Nike, just do it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, all right, listeners, just go about doing it. Write down the brand statement. Now, what will happen by design of this exercise, especially when I really started doing this exercise, really long back. As in, I wrote my first brand statement I think 15 years back, 15,
Wow.
17 years back. And what happens most of the time is you will end up writing a paragraph because you will end up writing who you represent. You're going to do everything that I just told you you
Yes.
should do, what comes naturally to you. The idea really is to keep it short. Okay, as short as possible.
Yeah, concise is the key.
Yeah, the idea really is to come up with a statement that you can, by the way, relate to.
Yeah.
The most important element of the brand statement again is going to be your ability to redo it. Listen, you're not a big brand that does a brand statement and then they have to like stick with it for 5 years, 10 years, and then only once in a decade, in a couple of decades, you're going to go and rebrand yourself. Like honestly, for yourself, you could like literally write a brand statement every single month if you want, right?
Yeah.
That's really the purpose. The other aspect is going to be very important, is what in that statement makes you special or unique. All right, that's going to be an important aspect, primarily because now you have to position your brand within a peer group.
Right.
You see,
Right.
because that's the whole purpose of creating a brand, is to make you stand out.
Right.
All right. So while I did start by saying don't let others influence you,
Yeah.
now that you've written your first para and you've made some edits and you've like shortened it maybe a couple of lines, what you need to do now is now think about how this makes you stand out amongst your peers.
Right.
Okay. And many a times people write multiple brand statements for different scenarios.
Okay. How could you elaborate on that for a layman to understand?
Yeah. So basically, what's going to happen is, for a college student, for example, if a listener is a college student, you will end up writing a brand statement for when you're in college, and then you will end up writing a different brand statement where you're amongst your friends outside of college.
Right. Okay. That
As
makes
in
sense.
that, normally you end up doing that.
Right.
For someone who is in an office, environment, you will write one statement, brand statement for your office, and you will end up writing one when you're with your family and friends.
Right.
And it's totally okay for you to start with a couple of brand statements, because what you will realize, for the kind of person you are, unless you're like really living two lives, the brand statements are going to be very close to each other.
Okay.
All right. But what I want people to really focus on is going to be on brand statements where you really want to excel. So if you wrote 1, 2, or 3 brand statements, my advice for today's exercise is now pick one where you're going to be successful. So for example, you're going to pick one for your college. If you're a college student, you're going to pick one for the office, if you really want to excel in your career. Let's focus on that, because it's going to be difficult for anybody to run with 2 or 3 brand statements simultaneously. As in, honestly, that is something I will not advise anybody to do. Eventually, the 2 or 3 statements you wrote has to collapse into one statement.
Right.
Make that conscious choice of collapsing these brand statements into one. It's going to be super important.
That makes sense.
The third element, and that's going to be very important, is to be very authentic. Don't fake it. You can take the help of AI, especially if you are on a paid version of any of the AIs. What the AIs really do is, they remember threads now, right? So as you are asking questions, what you can do if you're using an AI to do this exercise, by the way, is tell the AI about yourself. So please put that effort of writing and tell the AI who you are.
Explain. Basically, you need to explain it. So it's like you're speaking to a child. You put everything into it so it gets out the output.
Literally just going around the internet and picking something.
Yeah.
Randomly. Randomly, and then gives it to you and packages it to you.
Right.
Because the third bit is authenticity.
Right.
And if you're not authentic, the next piece that we're going to talk about is not going to happen. Pause this video, write your brand statement. If you start with a lengthy paragraph, try to make it shorter. That's okay. You can keep rewriting the brand statement literally every month. Eventually, you will become an expert. Try to add something that makes it stand out, makes you unique. Remember, it's your brand statement and not somebody else's. And finally, be authentic.
So, Harish, after this, what is the next step? After you've branded, you found yourself a tagline, where do you go next with it?
If you are doing this, with a professional help, like, the brand statement alone may take you a couple of days. If you really sit down, you take a break, it's going to take you at least 4 to 5 hours, right? As in, honestly, somebody, if a statement comes naturally to you and, you look at the statement, you're like, this is it. I think you've really got, lucky. And I wish it happens to everyone, by the way. So yeah, listen, time box it, but also give it enough time.
Yeah.
The next stage is really defining the brand purpose. Why are you writing this brand statement is to really make yourself stand out amongst your peer group, is to represent, yourself, in the real world, in the practical world. And you need to find a purpose, and this is not life's purpose. We are really not trying to now create a big umbrella,
Right.
philosophical problem solving here, because trying to get into a life purpose is going to take
Forever.
forever. As in, there are a lot of people who are geniuses and amazing and very successful in their lives,
Right.
have not yet figured out the purpose of life.
True.
Maybe they know the purpose of life in a very subconscious way, but not necessarily figured it out.
Right.
So for today's exercise, for the purpose of your own brand, don't try to go soul searching. While it is recommended, you should do that. If you've already figured it out, that's amazing, because now you can add you can merge, the purpose of life with your brand. But the idea really is listing down the purpose of your brand.
Right.
And the purpose of your brand is technically meant for yourself.
Okay.
It's, hey, listen, I'm going to make an impact in the world. This is what other people are not supposed to, know. As you start implementing. So I'll give tips about implementation. We'll get to that point in a minute.
Harish, would you like to give some example of brand statement and purpose for the viewers to understand?
Yeah, as in, listen, again, I don't want to color people's thought. You can obviously Google around, some of the top companies in respect to, what they are. I actually ended up, bringing a couple of examples for you. So for example, one of the brand statements could be empowering potential through innovation.
Brand.
Now this is very relevant in today's world, especially as a lot of the jobs are getting a flavor of AI, right? And this is where you could like write a brand statement for yourself, where you're saying, hey, I'm going to create impact through innovation. Now, when we get into implementation of your brand, one of the things you will realize is that you will never write down your brand statement, unlike the big companies like Nike does. They're just writing their brand statement everywhere, right? On all their products.
Yes.
In personal and practical life, individuals, ideally will not do that,
Yes,
right?
it's not practical.
Now, you can do that in a very subtle way. You can just put it on a T-shirt, for a party and stuff like that. But you're not going to just do it everywhere when you go to work, or when you're going to college, or wherever, different parts of your life.
Right.
So the statement will resonate during the implementation stage, and I'm going to explain, the viewers in respect to how how to go about doing that.
Right.
Now, empowering potential through innovation. If I associate, a brand purpose for it, is purpose inspire growth with innovation solution.
Okay.
Right? So now that's my purpose. My purpose is I'm going to create innovative solutions in the kind of, job I'm in, right? Or in the place that I'm in. I'll give one more example of a brand statement is exceeding expectation in every endeavor.
Okay. For a layman, how would they understand this?
As in, again, the idea is really, you're writing a statement for yourself, right? And, like I said, I'm going to talk about it in the implementation stage.
Right.
But this is, it does sound sophisticated. It doesn't have to be, right? As in, there are simpler ones that you can, write, for example, impacting the community with sustainability.
Right.
Right? Because that's the theme, right? Like everybody in today's world,
Everyone relates to it, wants to do it.
Yeah, and that's what you relate to it, remember?
100%.
Yeah. Now, impacting the community with sustainability, the purpose could be promote sustainable community practice.
Okay. How would you elaborate that?
Yeah. So that is what, we'll discuss in, during the implementation stage, right? So now you have a statement, a brand statement, and a brand purpose.
Right.
All right.
Right.
And then we'll get to the next stage when we start talking about implementation.
Harish, now that you have the statement and the purpose, we've understood, I think all the viewers have understood it, as I've understood it being a layperson,
Yeah.
not from this field. How would you implement it? How would you start?
Implementation is a life cycle. Okay, it will evolve because as you implement, you will start seeing results. Sometimes you may not see results. It takes time. So the first step in implementation of the brand is really now living the brand. One of the most amazing outcomes of starting this journey of self branding is that a lot of people really start realizing their true potential. I have seen people attend some workshops that I used to do with my teams, and people, when they write their bank statements, when it comes from the bottom of their heart, they really start looking at some of their strengths and they put that into the brand statement. We live a life today, like it or not, Myra, where we have so much of self doubt.
Yes, we do.
We are constantly comparing ourselves with our peer groups. We are,
and the media, the TikToks, the Instagrams,
and
the
that
videos.
that is really one of the things which I feel is very, very difficult on people who are spending a lot of time on social media.
Right.
And like, not everybody does. As in,
Yes.
I spend a lot of time on social
We
media
do.
as well. We do end up, comparing ourselves with others. Now, what happens when you write your brand, especially if you follow the steps, right? Saying you write your brand, make it, shorter, believe in it, let it come from the bottom of your heart, it's genuine, is most of the time it's going to bring out your strengths.
Right.
All right. And this is something that I have seen is going to be one of the first, things that you guys are going to just, love, starting this journey. Now, when you start implementing, your brand, it's going to be living the brand.
Right.
In respect to, if you are going to lead, say, part of your brand is leading with sustainability, then what's going to happen is you're going to like keep bringing up the topic of sustainability through your actions,
Right.
through your behavior, and in your communication.
So you live it basically. You start living it.
You live it, as in, and honestly, when you live it, what you're really doing is you're living it with the sense of, keeping yourself in the center. For example, and then the kind of person you are, you for all you know, are already driving a green car, right?
Yeah,
A green vehicle.
We're living it.
Now, once you start this whole branding journey, what's going to happen is make an attempt to start talking about it. Now,
Reinforcing it in a way.
reinforcing it to people around you,
Yeah.
right? Saying, and by the way, there's a fine line now, right? And it's okay, right? Because you will, do some of these activities, and sometimes, you will really go on one extreme, and, sometimes you will go on the other extreme. One of the extreme is you're going to keep talking about, hey, I bought a green car. This is what I do. This is the kind of fuel efficiency I get. This is the kind of savings on carbon emissions I'm creating and things like that. Now you could overdo it and start making people around you feel bad about themselves, right?
Don't make me repulsed by that brand, repulsed by that.
Yeah. And
product,
listen,
I would
and
say.
that's totally okay. Just be mindful that when you start, this particular journey, you will end up being on both sides of the spectrum. Sometimes you'll realize for days and end, even though you were making a effort, you were getting very shy about talking about your brand, right? And that happens all the time. We are so repulsive about speaking about yourself in that
Yes.
particular way. So I'll give another example for working professionals. If you're really good at, for example, if you're in banking and finance and you're really good at markets, do make an effort to talk to people about the kind of newspaper or the kind of content you consume on a everyday basis in respect to what allows you to get that knowledge.
Right.
Reflect, right? And help people, for example, right? So people around you who are not very educated about finance, for example, make that effort to give them a 30-second explainer. Right. For example, the topic of volatility, how many people understand that topic? So you could be like one of them who really puts that effort, and it gives them a layman's definition of that.
Yes.
Now, the more you do these, when either you're talking about through your actions, whether you're talking about it in a way that you're explaining people what you're doing in the genre, like, hey, I just moved my, self from electric to solar. My house is fully, charged with, solar. You're in the finance world, you're going to, help people understand finance. Whoever you are, you will realize as you start taking these steps, you're going to leave imprints in people's mind.
Right. That makes sense.
Now, the human behavior is you may help people, 5 times, 10 times, 100 times, and they are not ever going to thank you about it, or come and talk to you about how big your brand has become.
Right.
So, one of the most important elements in implementation stages, do not find validation of your implementation stage. Do not ask around people saying, have you seen a difference in my brand? Like, don't go.
Unnecessary feedback, you mean?
Yeah, like, don't conduct your own survey.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, like, you will have to commit to the exercise, and you will have to just stick
Wait
to
for
it.
the results.
Yeah, the results will start showing up. And I'll tell you, I'll give you examples where people around you are going to give you indicators in respect to how the results, start taking shape. The third bit of implementation is when you start implementing, pause, go back to the drawing board, look at this white piece of paper that you wrote your brand statement, your brand purpose, go look at it again and, redo it. If there is a need to redo it, then, just go about redoing it. The one absolute no-no is don't try to overdo it. Like, just because we gave an example of sustainability and I said, hey, listen, one of the ways in which somebody could be sustainable is to stop driving, a petrol vehicle and go into an electric vehicle. Like, now don't go and buy a electric vehicle for the purpose of helping your brand, right? Like, don't take extreme measures.
Yes.
Do what comes naturally to you. By the way, you could still drive a petrol car,
Yes.
but talk about sustainability, and that anyway will help your brand, right? Because many a times educating people around you on a certain topic will anyway help your brand, go from there. So those are some of the, tips in respect to implementation, stage in general.
Yes. I hope these points help everyone, all our viewers, and whoever's watching us right now.
Yeah, as in, listen, I think we will have to cover some of these points a little bit more in details in the upcoming episodes,
Yeah.
as well. And then finally, one of the other aspects of implementation, and, I just mentioned that you will start seeing success. You are going to see success. And what really happens is when you do things, right, you will see a small and minor change in the way people react, with you directly. So again, I'm not asking you to focus on indirect, ways in which people are trying to indicate to you that, they've started to recognize the brand,
Right.
because that's an absolutely unknown space, and, don't even venture in that space at all. But you could now start looking at the way people respond to your emails,
Right.
the way people communicate with you. The fact that, you took the effort of explaining people those 2 or 3 points in finance that, they had no understanding about.
That stuck with them.
Yeah, you will actually find people come back after 10 days, after a month, maybe come back and say, hey, you know what, I was reading this article about volatility, and thank you so much. I really understood the whole topic because you explained
it
me
so well.
that, yeah, I knew the definition because of you.
Yes.
So, today I could understand this newspaper article, or, I was watching television and I could understand, some of those elements because of you. That will start happening. In a workplace, 99% of the times, in about 3 to 6 months, you will see direct feedback come from your manager.
Oh.
If you're doing things correctly, you will see, an impact. There is a study that says, 20% of the times, people who are really focusing on their brand have 20% more chances of getting promotion versus people who are not working towards their brand. Right? And in my opinion, the 20%, it's very difficult to, come up with these numbers, right? So these are like big surveys that are happening, over a multiple period of time, years. But I feel, if you really look at me, like, my approach has been 20% more probability of getting a promotion is a big probability, right? Because your chances going up by 20%. is pretty big. In my opinion, from what I have seen in my life, the probability is anywhere between 50 and 70%. Like if you get this right, you will succeed. So that's a huge margin. Right? It is a huge margin. Right? And listen, just doing the basic things right, especially in a corporate, forget what your brand statements are. I'm just going to give you some tips that just help you grow from a career wise. It's just going to make a huge impact. First things first, dress for success wherever you're working. Now, dressing for success does not mean everybody has to wear a professional suit, shirt and tie, and that's what you're going to, wear every day of the year. Yes. Dress for success means wear what your company wants you to wear, right, but just do a clean job about it. Yes. Just a clean job. So honestly, what I'm really wearing right now is not formals; it's semi-formals. Right. But I'm just doing a clean job about it, right? Like it's just everything is in place, as in I'm hoping everything is in place. It is. Right? Yeah. Now, what Mahera is wearing is again, semi-formals. Right. And you know what? In my opinion, you're looking dapper. Thank you. Yeah. So, this is going to be very impactful for the kind of, work you're doing, right? You're an entrepreneur, you're presenting yourself, in front of your customers. Meeting people, I have to look presentable. Exactly, right? Right. The second important aspect is going to be, again, not spending a lot of money, but just basic hygiene stuff, right? Yes. Your grooming. Very important. Very important. Your nails, the way you look. Hair. And you know what? A small tip, a dash of fragrance doesn't do any harm. And living in UAE, if you don't have a dash of fragrance, that would be something. Listen, I'm with you, right? As in this part of the world, fragrance goes a long way. Yes. So, just, doing some of these basic things, right? The other things that could help your brand, again, small tips works amazingly in my favor. As part of your brand statement, right? Again, just the professional brand statement, you could time box and say, I will reply to every email that hits my inbox in 30 minutes. All right. Like back in the day, 2012, when I was trying to be a vice president at my work, I said, I'm going to reply to every email within 20 minutes, it hitting my inbox. I was getting anywhere between 200 to 500 emails a day, right? Again, it was either directly marked to me, I was in CC, in bigger corporates and people will associate with me. You end up getting marked on many emails that you're not supposed to be marked on. But what I made an effort was to, time box the 20 minutes and respond back. The implication it has on the writer and the brand you create, if you do this consistently, is just amazing. All right. Now, listen, different categories and different designations require a different strategy. If you are a managing director, if you are a CEO, CXO kind of a person, do you really want to start replying to every email? No, I would not suggest that at all. Absolutely, right? It's going to take away the empowerment. You're going to take the empowerment away from your team. Yeah. And I've done that many a times. When I moved from an executive role into a CXO decision-making role, I felt I was replying to too many emails. I've actually told my teams consciously to stop making me write emails. Like literally ping me on the chat saying, Harish, do not reply to this email. I'm going to do it. So I made my team stop me from writing emails because I put so much of effort over the last 7-8 years of time boxing and replying back to every email. I used to really joke about it. When I look back, I used to say I'm Roger Federer of emails. So if you write me an email, I'm gonna write you an email back, right? So that's one tip that works amazingly well. By the way, that tip works really, really well in your personal life. Just to create an element of trust that you are there for someone. Right. Like if one of your friends, your loved ones, not everybody, all right, like not the thousands of people in your life, but I'm saying 5 or 10 people. Yeah. If they say hi to you on one of the chat engines, WhatsApp, social media, SMS, please make that effort of replying back to them. I would say if you're going to put 20 minutes in your professional, life, in your personal life, do that in 5 minutes. Yes. Right? You could be in the middle of a meeting. You can just, literally tell your client saying, if you excuse me, this is an important friend, is an important family member, I'm just going to take 5 minutes and say, hey, listen, I saw your message, I'm going to respond to you. Right. If you do that consistently, 3 months, 6 months, your friends just start believing in you. Your family members, just feel you're there for them all the time. It helps your brand. Right. All right. So these are some of the tips. Listen, I can have hundreds and hundreds of tips that I have literally taken my brand statement and applied it in different aspects of my life. Please put in the comments if you need any tip on any certain areas. I'm more than happy to really. We're here to help you in any way, in any guidance for any of the brand management. You can write to Harish. In the comment section, just say hashtag brand statement and then we'll respond. So I would like to thank Harish for giving us such an insightful experience about brand management. And if anybody has any queries like Harish has suggested before, you can write it in our comments, or we can even give you all email access. You can send us emails, and we can answer your queries and help you in your career guidance or brand management or anything of that sort. And that being said, thank you for listening to us, watching us, and please like, share, and subscribe. That has to be okay for us to get more topics on. So, thank you so much for joining us.